25.
What's that? What's that?
Down the slides? Yeah, we gave you the USB.
Yeah, I did.
Pull your head in.
What's that? Why is that?
Pull your head in. You lucky son. No, it should be sweet. Should be sweet. Good evening, classmates, Rahad, and esteemed panelists. Thank you for taking the time from your busy schedule to listen to our presentation. Today, me, Gabriel, and my group will be discussing the issues relating to the non-for-profit organisation and the public sector. These issues include performance measurement for the public sector, compliance issues for the public sector, specifically the complexity and timelessness of reporting, complexities for the non-for-profit organisations, including the complexity of having a large number of diverse legislations and regulatory bodies for each state and commonwealth. Finally, we'll be discussing sustainability for non-for-profit organisations and the connecting factors of transparency, public trust, and donation. We will address each issue while also adding recommendations for what we feel would solve the problem. In determining issues, we first need to establish what the public sector is. The public sector are departments of health, education, transport, local governments. What they do is they provide a service for the community. How we identified it is in an investigation of current research. A critical issue that frequently arose was performance evaluation. Commercial companies are driven by profit. Public sector companies are driven by its ability to provide a service. We highlight in Rakian and Andrew's report, who examined the implementation of new public sector management, NPM, in the Northern Territory. The NPM was an internationally developed framework designed to increase the effectiveness and efficiency of the public sector by using commercial measures of the performance and stimulate competition. Ultimately, the NPM failed, and with this, a number of issues were highlighted. They had multiple stakeholders. Public sector companies were ultimately accountable to many stakeholders such as ministers, parliamentary representatives, employees, voters, and the community at large. Public sector companies were evaluated on both social and economic performance. Because of this means that they could avoid being accountable for unnecessary expenditures. For example, the article mentions how meetings for public sectors could deduct costs as a provide service. Competitive benchmarking was unable to occur because public sector objectives were too dissimilar. Finally, the costs required to adequately monitor performance was far too expensive. However, what we recommend is based on the issues emerging from the failure of the NPM is that workforce planning implementation with strategic planning would be a suitable alternative in measuring the performance of the public sector. The article written by Freyens found that the agencies with less turnover had staff with greater experience, more workplace skills, and provide a more effective service. Freyens looked at the number of public sector agencies such as Department of Defence, Immigration, and Social Service. He highlighted two particular companies examined. The Australian Customs Service, which recorded high retention rates because workforce planned assessments and are regularly conducted, against the ATO, which experienced acute shortages because of the inaccurate processes to identify capability gaps and the integration of the workforce planning in strategy. The next issue is relating to compliance. First, we must address the stakeholders. They are government departments, general members of the public, media, employees. The issues, such as timelessness of reporting, a report is considered to be late when it fails to meet time limits, both initially or any extensions that may have been granted or simply because of a failure to seek an extension. Each year, that was examined in the study of the compliance in the first 4 years, accounting AAS 27. There was a significant number of the 177 local governments in the New South Wales that had late submissions of financial reports. This can be seen in the table. When reports are completed late, then they become outdated and useless for the users. Another issue was the complexity of reporting. The study outlined that there were a significant number of errors in the reports prepared by the staff of local governments, specifically in the notes section. This error leads to the user's inability to fully utilise their publications. Due to the complexity and lack of understanding, it was determined that there was a 35% turnover of senior accounting staff. For any business, high staff turnover can cost a lot of money and cause inefficiencies. What we recommend is when new laws such as accounting standards are introduced, governments should provide staff training to ensure that staff understand how to execute the new accounting requirements well before the implementation. The training should clearly explain to employees how the changes will affect them. Reports need to be prepared with the reader in mind. They need to check what employers need when preparing the notes. With this new recommendation, however, with the latest budget, this has been problematic, seeing as the new budget released that there will be cuts to the state government. Local governments receive funding from the state government, therefore training can be problematic because it's costly and expensive. The next slide relates to the complexities in the non-for-profit organisation. To summarise the mind map, so the current legislation is complex, with many states having a number of legislations and regulatory bodies. To solve this, the previous government in 2012 implemented the ACNC, the Australia's Charities and Non-for-Profit Commission. The recent budget by the Liberal government, let's not get political, I'm just mentioning it, plans to abolish the ACNC, and we are back to the previous problem. We suggest recommendations. As you can see by the table, each state and the Commonwealth have their own legislation and regulatory body. It's rigorous in number to count. The ACNC was introduced. Their main objectives was to promote the reduction of unnecessary regulatory obligations to the sector, while also supporting non-for-profit sectors and guiding them in reporting and what to disclose. The current government planned to abolish the ACNC. The reason for this was they found that it was not worth taxpayers' money, and it added to the complexities of the red tape burden. Therefore, we're back to the same issue of the previous slide with too many legislations and regulatory bodies. Our recommendation is forming... the previous recommendation was to form a universal body. However, because of this, we recommend that each state collaborate together and collectively agree on a number of legislations and regulatory bodies that can govern the non-for-profit sector. Finally, the last issue. Another recommendation, more specified, would be to make easier reporting standards depending on the level of annual revenue the non-for-profit organisation earns. So the general summary of it is the less money they earn, the less reporting requirements they need to lodge. The final issue is fundraising. This is a concerning issue, as Grant Thornton released a statement saying 75% of one of the largest issues in the non-profit sector and the public sector. In a study by Grant Thornton, fundraising accounts for 78% of the accounting issue. The root of the issue begins with transparency of reporting. To elaborate, we need better legislation developed by regulatory bodies and better monitoring of those reports by those external commissions. This will lead to better trust. Trust has also been a major issue in the past. In 2004, the UN surveyed 19,000 people over 20 countries. They found that 65% of people had some degree of trust in the non-for-profit sector. Our recommendation to this is, as mentioned before, the ACNC must continue. But however, another recommendation, so that was the only recommendation, I apologise. Okay, so to summarise, for non-for-profit organisations to retain fundraising, they must report transparent financial reports. To enable this, they get more public trust from it, which leads to more donations. More donations leads to more sustainability for the non-for-profit organisation. And that's it. Thank you.
So, yeah, so we can do it like this.
But how you draw?
Well, the mouse, using mouse.
So, wait, what? Click to extend.